Hey guys, I'm Shirshadai. Welcome to episode 9 of StarCraft Breaking the Barriers. Today we're going to delve into a very advanced topic, but even in Platinum you start learning about this and you'll be pursuing this goal as you continue all of your career in StarCraft, wherever that may take you. It's affecting pros and other players at every level, but primarily starting around Plat is when I want to start having people actively get into this topic, and that is specifically decision making. It's what I listed at last step for Platinum Focus because when you first get into Platinum as a Protoss, or any race for that matter, you have a couple other things you've got to get used to, specifically scouting specifically, and learning to harass. Army control, not something we've really talked about other than Guardian Shield and A move. So you have a lot of things that are added to your plate of necessary mechanics to have, but decision making is really what drives those mechanics. Ideally, when you go into a game of StarCraft versus any opponent, you already have a little bit of an idea of what you want to do. You have a planned opener, you have an idea of where you want to go from there for a transition, and then you have a list of what ifs. What do I do if I scout no drones at my opponent's natural base at like 4 minutes? Well, he's probably making a huge armory and he's coming across the map to kill you. So you need to be able to scout and respond and decide what the most appropriate response is. Today's replay is actually brought to us by WCS Montreal. You guessed it, he's Neeb. We're going to look at his game versus True on Odyssey, not Ascension to Aya. So we're looking at this in normal speed on Neeb's camera, and you can already see there might be a little bit of a challenge for you to follow along. It's no problem at all. You can just click this minus sign. It reduces the game speed so that you can see more of what Neeb is doing. We're not actually going to be slowing down a lot of the stuff that we talk about. In the meantime, though, we're going to speed this up for a little bit. Neeb actually goes Nexus first on this map. He gets across the map. He planned to go Nexus first from the beginning. When he gets across the map, he sees Hatch first. Okay, I can go Nexus first. He gets his probe to the natural. Then he sends a probe down to take his Nexus. If he saw an early pull, he would be getting a gateway before he took his Nexus just to try to defend a little bit better. Might have completely changed his opener. Hard to tell because if you don't see how a pro responds, it's hard for you to tell what the best way to respond is. So a lot of the stuff we're going to be looking at specifically is more of an in-theory situation of if I see this, what does it mean? But it's just to give you an idea of how Neeb responds to things in-game. So he's just being annoying with his probe over here. Meanwhile, getting his gateway started, both his gases, just a normal Nexus first opener, which we haven't actually talked about because a Nexus first delays your unit production, delays your tech, and just a lot of other issues that can come about from lack of stuff. Especially if you're getting cheesed early and you didn't properly scout to respond to it. So we see Neeb getting an Adept, chronoing that, descended across the map, he gets a Stargate. Behind that, he starts Whipgate. So, this first Adept is only to scout. He's sending it across the map. He's going to have a general idea what he's looking for. So, he sends it out, sends the Shade. He's going to check down here to make sure there are no Lings hiding to wait for that Adept to come out before he lets his Shade complete. Because if he sees Lings, he just cancels it and leaves it at home until he has time to make another Adept. Now he's going to Shade across the map into the natural mineral line.
Glory to the Daylong.
And we're going to take a look at what he sees. He's going to build another gateway. So he's moving all the way through this mineral line, just looking to see what's there. So this is step number 1. He looked with his Shade to see how many drones are in the natural. If you see right now, the game timer is at 3 minutes 30-ish when he was over here looking for drones. Cancels his Shade. He has no intention of committing to the Shade. All he wants to know is, are you building drones? If you are building drones, I can continue with my plan. If you don't have very many drones here, I need to anticipate an attack, and I need to keep my Oracle at home. I probably need to make a sentry, get my Mothership Core out a little bit faster. Depends on what you scout, what you expect from your opponent, but for the most part, low drone count in the natural is a really good sign you're going to be attacked. So because he doesn't see any shortage of drones he has. He probably could count them, to be fair, but he sees how many drones he thinks need to be there, and he goes back home, continues on with his normal plan.
You must construct additional
Building pylons, building probes, oracles going. So, behind this, Neeb gets his Twilight Council. He's going to be going into glaives behind his oracle, just to provide additional map control. One other little cute thing, he shades into the gold base location. He knew there wasn't a third base here, so he shades into this base to deny any mining. He shades into this little gap between the mineral patches, because this way lings can't really surround your adepts. It's a very difficult place for lings to defend if the adepts are between mineral patches. And he just shades them in here and he puts them on hold position just so they don't run off chasing lings. Gonna be just hanging out, denying any mining, so any drones that get sent over here are gonna die to these adepts, and Chu knows this. So until he cleans up these adepts, there's really nothing he can do with this third base. Meanwhile, this oracle is just moving around, just looking to see what he can see. He sees not much of anything, honestly, but the two queens do push him back, so he's not really able to find any information. So he's going to go back, continue his macroing. He's working on a third base right now, and with those adepts just now, he saw two lings pop out of that gold base. So he knows, okay, so you're building units right now. Adepts are still in hold position, so he sees the queens poking at him and he shades out with those. Sees this relatively large force at his third base. He only has one pylon and it's not finished yet. His mothership core is not even actually finished yet, delaying it very heavily for him to get his tech, because he's very comfortable defending with just an oracle and a few adepts. So the lings come over into the third base, and Neeb is going to grab his oracle, grab some adepts to send down into the third base location rather, so that he can make sure he doesn't actually lose anything. So you didn't actually see any of that, because all he did was move the oracle into position and activate it and just move the adepts. So what that actually looked like Oracle comes over, activates its beam, adepts attack in, and Tree just runs. Neeb is sold just by doing that little thing. And didn't even really look at it. He knew it needed to happen, he just sent them there, continuing to work on his macro. So basically for Neeb, and in my opinion for everybody, macro is the #1 thing you need to do, above harassing, above defense even. We'll actually see a little bit of an exception in a few minutes where Neeb gets attacked and does a spectacular job of holding it, and it's just another one of those reactions. So he's continuing to send adepts across the map. He sees those lings right here. He's going to shade back behind the mineral line again to try to deny surface area. Oracle beam is on, and the lings are cleaned up, about half of them anyway. Neeb's lost a few more resources than True at this point, but he's still okay because he's actually up in workers right now. So, continuing to look for overlords with his Phoenix. He's sending his Oracle to scout, getting his gases on his third base. He's getting a forge, getting a robo, continuing to just do his thing. This is his normal transition. This is his planned transition. I'm going to go into a robotics facility and a forge behind my opener. Getting a third base saturated. He's going to get a fourth base in about a minute and a half or so. Continuing to scout with this Oracle, he sees, okay, I see your gases are taken and you're mining on those. I see some lings moving across the map. I see a bunch of lings. So, Neeb does something really awesome here. This harassing force that was going across the map, he grabs, and you see this little circle here? He A-clicks them into this spot. So he's going to be intercepting some of these lings going across the map. So, True actually interrupts his attack to pull back to try to stop these adepts, to try to get on top of these adepts. So he's buying himself time, and he is helping to reduce the amount of army that's going to be going toward his third base. Immortals, +1, charge, part of his normal transition. So at the third base he sees, okay, you have some lings here. This is another response. Probably something he was going to do anyway, but now he's doing it anyway. He's building 2 gateways here, because these 2 gateways touching the nexus and touching this wall means lings can't actually get in this way. They can't run around behind the mineral lines. You have the adepts here in a line, trying to help minimize the surface area the Lings can get through here. He's got a sentry. He can force field right in front of these adepts and prevent Lings from actually getting into the third base at all. So if he just sends Lings, he's not going to kill any probes. He's going to lose a lot of Lings, and he's not really going to get anything done for it. So, going back to Neeb's camera, shading into that mineral line. Right behind the minerals, and he completes the shade, starts killing Lings, killing a few drones, using this oracle to kill some drones while these adepts are just doing their thing, and continuing to macro, continuing to produce adepts, making his gates into whip gates, building a Templar archives, because he wants to get into Archons and possibly Storm, depending on what he scouts. And now he's building a warp prism, so he can put on a little bit of pressure into the main base, get some harassment done there. Now what Neeb doesn't see yet is True is making a ton of roaches because he wants to attack. Neeb is just macroing up. He's continuing to pressure, continuing to scout, continuing to send units. So he's going to use his Oracle to get into the natural base, and he sees the units. So he now sees a bunch of roaches. So okay, he's making a bunch of roaches. Cool. He's going to make Archons. He sees this army in the middle of the map. So here's Neeb's checklist. He's about to be attacked. He's going to send those adepts that were at the watchtower. He's just going to shade them into this base and forget about it. He just shaded, clicked on the base, and it says, whatever, I got stuff I got to do. So if you look at his camera, he's got these two pylons on the way. He has his units kind of getting in position. He sees the Ravagers morphing, so now he knows exactly what time it's going to be hitting him. He knows what it's going to look like. He starts a Void Ray, just so he has extra units that can't die to that. Gets these adepts here. Yeah, that's it. That's the last time he looks at those adepts until they die. He unfortunately does lose this Immortal, because he's doing a lot of things at once. Loses an Immortal, some adepts, and Sentry. So he backs up all the way over to this Nexus, so that he can Pylon Overcharge and defend. Notice he has not used that Pylon Overcharge yet, because True wants him to use that for sure. And now he's going to throw it out there. He only throws one. He has two pylons in range, but he only overcharges one, because he really wants to preserve the energy of this Mothership Core, and he knows exactly how important it is to maintain that ability to overcharge. So this is a very scary Zerg army right now, compared to how little is here for the Protoss. But I want you to see how Neeb just handles this. This is less about decision making here. I mean, some of it is like lifting this Ravager, using the Oracle to work on another Ravager, using his Mothership Core to actually DPS units. He goes back home, he builds a Dark Shrine. That pylon goes down, he overcharges his next, and he builds additional pylons, so he has more things to overcharge. The Warp Prism comes home so he can micro more actively. He'll be able to pick up his Immortal and drop it down to keep it from going down. You have another Immortal just finished. He's going to bring down the fight. Lynx start getting into the third base, so Neeb grabs those quickly to pull them into the main base. Left them mining as long as he could, and he is going to lose a lot of workers here, but not nearly as many as if he had left them all there. And Neeb goes back and overcharges again because there are still units in range. Neeb quickly moves out of the bile, and those adepts, by the way, just died. The entire time this fight's been going on, they've been over here just doing stuff. All the Lings that were sent over here, and the Roach that died, I think that was a Roach at one time, and all the drones that were mining at one time are now all over here. And so, they're not mining. That means that Neeb isn't mining on his third base, and True isn't mining on what was his third base, so they're actually more evened out in income. So Neeb was also forcing a reaction out of True by sending adepts over there. You can't commit your entire army to attack me at the front if you have to clean up my harassing forces in your gold base. So just, again, the decision making. And so from here, Neeb just finishes cleaning it up. Some very cute Warp Prism micro on these Immortals to help catch the retreating Ravagers and prevent the Immortal from actually being killed. As soon as the fight's over, he grabs probes from his main and his natural base that he saved from his third to go back to mining. His fourth base is done at this point. His Dark Shrine's finishing up, and he's going to carry on with his next phase. He's whipping in High Templars. He's whipping in another couple sentries because force fields are really awesome. And now there's another attack in this top part. Outside is natural. Doesn't need to burn an overcharge. Just has some units he's going to send right up there. And deflected rather easily. Warp Prism moves off to the south to warp in units to drop into the main base. He'll start with a couple of depths first, and then he'll warp in charge lots to drop later. And at some points, we'll just warp in units and walk them into mineral lines. Specifically with that DT shrine done, he has that option. You put a DT in each mineral line, and suddenly True is not able to attack at all because he has to have all of his units at home defending while Neeb just macros up. Retaking that gas, he's going to build some cannons at his fourth base. A couple Lings do find that, so he warps in defensively. And the Lings that are trying to get there really just don't find any damage because the Adepts are already in position. Drops some Adepts to save the Warp Prism, and just continues on. Finds the army that's hanging out by the gold base, goes ahead and engages that just to push it back. Starts a storm in response to the Hydra switch, and just carrying on. That starting the storm was a decision. He's been just using Archons this whole time. He sees the Hydra, looks okay, I need storm now. And so he gets it.
From the shadows I come.
And this game just continues to be Neeb making really good decisions over what True is doing, continuing to put pressure on while he's macroing, continuing to pressure while he's being attacked, and here come the DTs. This is the part where True has a DT in 3 of his 4 mineral lines and doesn't really have an ability to push across the map whatsoever because Neeb is in his mineral lines. And behind this, Neeb has the ability to take a 5th base because everything is just all tied up. So you see he's got DT hitting the 5th base now, DT hitting the natural and the 3rd base right now. A little bit of pressure from True. Neeb continuing to whip in units. He does lose that DT. This DT is still killing things. And there's a DT at the gold base still killing things. In this case, it's just working on the hatch. But he just killed 15 drones because he's in 3 places at once and True was not ready. So just overtaxing True's multitasking ability. And now Neeb is going to build a wall here that will make the builders of the Great Wall proud. No Lings will pass that day. He's taking his next base and getting a fleet beacon, whipping in a bunch of zealots that he's going to attack in one direction while his main army attacks in another. So just consistent decision making, consistent adjustments from Neeb based on what he sees. And this is absolutely a very far and above set of decision making that you will see from Neeb that you won't see from a lot of other players. Neeb is definitely the best Protoss in not Korea, in my opinion. Best foreigner Protoss. So looking at his examples is a really good way to see how he responds to things. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to defend your 3rd base with next to no units and some really good micro while having time to send units across the map to counterattack. But it's what Neeb did. And it really did. You could really see how it worked for him. Just his awesome control. But you could see his control, but you don't necessarily recognize the decisions that he made in order to make all that happen. That first adept he sent across the map, the decision to go Nexus first, and the scout with the probe that confirmed to him that it was something he could do without being punished very heavily for. So he does that. He gets his adept across the map to scout a drone count. Gets his oracle across the map to look for any free drones he can get moving between bases to get an idea of what's going on. See when True starts taking his gases so he knows when he can start expecting tech. And dropping with his Warp Prism to see what the army comp looks like, kill any drones that he can, just continuing to apply pressure to never allow True to move his entire army across the map. So that's a decision as well. So basically saying, I'm going to send units that may or may not ever get anything done, but it's going to make sure you have to keep army at home so you can never attack me with every unit that you have. And that's one strength that harassment can provide, especially in this stage of the game. Warp in 6 to 8 charge lots and just A-click them across the map when you attack the main army so that the zealot gets get there about the same time. So they're going to kill a base while you're fighting his army, and if he responds by microing his army well, then okay, you take a decent trade, and oh look, your zealots just killed a base and 16 workers that were mining minerals. Because you're forcing your opponent to decide, where am I going to focus, or am I even going to notice that because I'm focusing so much on this main engagement. So sure, you may take a bad fight, but you just killed a base. It's just little things, little seemingly insignificant decisions or very spectacular decisions of Neeb to say, I'm sending these 6 adepts into the mineral line while I'm defending at my third base because I don't think I need those units to defend, when I would have been like, F2, everything come home yesterday, because I need every unit I have here. And Neeb might not have been able to defend any better by having those 6 adepts, so they might as well be across the map and getting some damage done, making True unable to fully commit to his bio micro, his unit micro at the third base, so he's defending at home. It's a really in-depth concept. It's a really in-depth topic of study, but decision making in StarCraft is just such a major part of it, from low leagues all the way up into the pro leagues, and they're talking about decision making, trying to figure out the thought processes of the pro players, trying to get in their head and make them make funny decisions in response to what they're showing, but they're actually doing something else. So you're really trying to force some bad decisions from your opponents at the high levels. So it's just so much that can go on as far as decision making goes. It's just a really fantastic topic to me, and something that I'm still personally working on, because I have a mental checklist of, say, if I scout a 1 base Terran, he's on double gases. When my probe gets to his main base, the probe that I sent after building my gateway, so there's no realistic reason a Terran should have that fast of a gas income, unless he plans to do something very tech oriented, or if he's 1 base all inning me, or if he's going mech and getting like cyclone pressure expansions behind that, which I've seen. Those are the options that I have personally experienced. So if I scout that, I know it's this, this, or this, and this decision will cover the most bases. So it's really about, for yourself, going to the replays of the all-ins you lose to, all the random things that happen, so you see, what did he do, and what can I do to both scout this, and what's a good decision to make to help respond to this. In Neeb's case, it was bring the Warp Prism home so I can pick up and drop Immortals to keep them alive a little bit longer. Get a Void Ray out so I have a little bit extra firepower to help stop this attack. Focus firing Ravagers, which are the real heavy-hitting, expensive units for True, so that even if he gets a lot of damage done, if he loses all of his Ravagers, it's a pretty heavy investment to have made for that attack. So just the little things, all the way up to the big things of your build order choice, all of it decision making in some way. And it's, again, a very involved topic, but start small. Start saying, I'm going to scout and I'm going to react to it, and I'm going to adjust my build as necessary. And obviously there are a lot of decisions to be made, a lot of reactions to the decision, to the scouting you have. And that's where we come in. People that have been there, people that played in the lower leagues, people that are still struggling with it but can offer a little bit of insight. So myself, the admins on All Things Protoss, and the Reddit for All Things, Discord for All Things Protoss as well, that you can find in the All Things Protoss Discord link in the Reddit. And now I'm tripping over myself, so I guess I'm going to call it off. Thanks for hanging out. I hope this video does help you. If you are interested in this topic, you can send me a message and I can go into your replays with you, or make you a video of a replay review and talk about it a little bit from your point of view and your perspective. Be sure to check out my social links down below as well, and if you want to get involved by sending me your replays, you can send them to me, SC2@gmail.com, and I'm also going to post a link to the WCS Montreal replay pack so that you can download them and look at yourself as well. Thanks, and have an awesome night.